There was a time when these faces were everywhere. They filled movie theaters, appeared on magazine covers, and became the stars millions of people admired throughout the 1960s. For a while, it seemed impossible to imagine Hollywood without them. But time has a quiet way of changing even its brightest legends. Today, many of those once beloved cinema idols rest in cemeteries that few people ever visit. Their films still exist, but the crowds have disappeared, and the places where they were laid to rest have grown remarkably still. In this video, we'll revisit 16 stars who once defined an unforgettable era of Hollywood, and follow the quiet path that eventually led each of them to their final resting place. Number 1. Sandra Dee. At Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, California, one modest grave belongs to a woman who was once one of America's brightest young stars. Today, the cemetery is quiet and many visitors pass by without realizing that Sandra Dee rests here. During the late 1950s and early 1960s, Sandra Dee became the image of innocence on the big screen. Films like Gidget, A Summer Place and Come September made her one of Hollywood's most popular actresses. Her warm smile and wholesome charm won the hearts of millions, while movie studios promoted her as the perfect girl next door. But the image audiences loved was only part of her life. Behind the cameras, Sandra struggled with the pressures of fame from an early age. As Hollywood changed throughout the 1960s, the sweet, youthful roles that had made her famous became harder to escape. Fewer leading parts followed, and her career gradually faded from the spotlight. She married singer and actor Bobby Darin after they met on the set of Come September, but even that seemingly perfect Hollywood romance could not shield her from personal difficulties. Sandra Dee passed away in 2005 at the age of 62 after complications related to kidney disease. Today her grave is simple and peaceful. While devoted fans still visit from time to time, it is a quiet place compared with the enormous fame she once enjoyed. It's a reminder that even Hollywood's brightest young idols can slowly fade from public memory. Leaving Sandra Dee behind, our journey now continues to another handsome star whose face once appeared on magazine covers across America, but whose final resting place is now just as quiet. Number 2. Troy Donahue. At Santa Barbara Cemetery in California, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Troy Donahue rests far from the excitement that once surrounded his name. Today, only a handful of visitors stop to remember the actor who was once one of Hollywood's biggest heartthrobs. In the early 1960s, Troy Donahue became the handsome leading man every studio wanted. His breakout role in A Summer Place turned him into a teenage sensation almost overnight. With his blonde hair, blue eyes, and effortless charm, he appeared on magazine covers everywhere, and millions of young fans rushed to theaters whenever one of his new films was released. For a few unforgettable years, he seemed destined to become one of Hollywood's biggest stars. But behind that perfect image, Hollywood had placed him in a difficult position. Studios continued casting him as the same romantic hero, leaving him few opportunities to prove himself in more demanding roles. As audience tastes changed during the late 1960s, his popularity slowly faded and leading roles became harder to find. Although he continued acting for many years, he never again reached the extraordinary fame of his early career. Troy Donahue passed away in 2001 at the age of 65 after suffering a heart attack. Today, his grave is peaceful and rarely visited, a quiet contrast to the years when thousands of fans admired the young man who seemed destined to remain Hollywood's next great leading star. Time has quietly transformed one of the era's most recognizable faces into a name many younger movie lovers have never heard. From California's coastline, our journey now leads to another unforgettable face whose remarkable talent earned critical acclaim, but whose life ended far too soon. Number 3. Jean Seberg. At Montparnasse Cemetery in Paris, France, Jean Seberg rests far from the Hollywood studios where her career first began. The cemetery welcomes many visitors each year, yet few come looking for the young American actress who became one of cinema's most unforgettable faces. Jean Seberg rose to fame at an early age after being chosen to star in St. Joan. While her Hollywood debut received mixed reactions, everything changed a few years later when she appeared in Breathless. Her short haircut, natural style, and quiet confidence helped make her an international icon, influencing fashion and modern cinema throughout the 1960s. But behind her success was a life filled with growing pressure. As her fame increased, so did the scrutiny surrounding both her career and personal life. She divided her time between Europe and the United States, but the constant attention took a heavy emotional toll. In later years, her acting opportunities became less frequent, and the joyful image seen on screen slowly gave way to a far more difficult reality. Jean Seberg was found dead in Paris in 1979 at the age of 40. Her passing marked the heartbreaking end of a career that had inspired filmmakers and audiences around the world. Today, her grave remains simple and peaceful. While dedicated film lovers still visit to honor her legacy, it is a quiet place compared to the influence she once had on an entire generation of cinema. Leaving Paris behind, our journey returns to Hollywood to remember another beloved star whose remarkable success was followed by a life that few fans ever imagined. Number 4. Bobby Darin. At Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles, California, Bobby Darin rests in a quiet corner far removed from the crowds that once filled concert halls and movie theaters. Although his name is still recognized by many, few visitors stop to reflect on the remarkable career that made him one of the most versatile entertainers of the 1960s. Best known for hits like Mac the Knife and Beyond the Sea, Bobby Darin also built an impressive film career. His performance in Captain Newman, M.D., earned him an Academy Award nomination, proving that he was far more than just a popular singer. Determined to challenge himself, he constantly searched for roles that would establish him as a serious actor. But behind his confidence was a race against time. Since childhood, Bobby had lived with a serious heart condition, knowing his life might be shorter than most. Even so, he worked tirelessly, recording music, making films, and performing whenever he could. As the late 1960s brought changing musical tastes and a new Hollywood, the spotlight gradually shifted elsewhere, but he never stopped pursuing his passion. Bobby Darin died in 1973 at just 37 years old following heart surgery, leaving behind a career that many believed still had years of greatness ahead. Today, his resting place is calm and understated. While loyal fans continue to visit, it stands in sharp contrast to the extraordinary energy and ambition that defined his life. His voice still echoes through classic recordings, but the man behind them now rests in quiet silence. From Bobby Darin, we move on to another unforgettable young star whose remarkable talent earned critical acclaim before tragedy cut his life far too short. Number 5. Sal Mineo. At Gate of Heaven Cemetery in Hawthorne, New York, Sal Mineo rests in a peaceful setting far from the movie studios that once made him one of Hollywood's brightest young stars. Today, only devoted film fans regularly seek out the grave of the actor whose talent once earned admiration around the world. Sal Mineo became a household name after starring alongside James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. His powerful performance earned him an Academy Award nomination, making him one of the youngest actors ever recognized in the category. Throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s, he appeared in a series of successful films and was widely praised for bringing emotional depth to every role he played. But Hollywood changed faster than anyone expected. As he grew older, the roles that had once come so easily became increasingly difficult to find. The industry began favoring new faces, and despite his undeniable talent, his career gradually slowed. Still, Sal never gave up on acting and continued working on stage, television, and in films whenever opportunities appeared. In 1976, Sal Mineo was tragically killed at the age of 37 after being stabbed outside his apartment in Los Angeles. His sudden death shocked Hollywood and brought an abrupt end to a career that many believed still had so much to offer. Today his grave remains quiet, a striking contrast to the applause he once received on screen. Though his performances continue to inspire classic film lovers, the place where he now rests is far more peaceful than the remarkable life he lived. Leaving New York behind, our journey continues to another unforgettable actress, whose beauty captivated Hollywood, but whose private struggles remained hidden from almost everyone around her. Number 6. George Peppard. At Northview Cemetery in Dearborn, Michigan, George Peppard rests far from the glamour of Hollywood. Today, the cemetery is peaceful, and few visitors would guess that one of the leading men of 1960s cinema lies here. George Peppard rose to international fame with memorable performances in films such as Breakfast at Tiffany's, How the West Was Won, and The Carpetbaggers. With his confident screen presence and unmistakable voice, he became one of Hollywood's most recognizable leading actors. For much of the 1960s, audiences admired him as the kind of star who could bring both charm and quiet strength to every role. But success in Hollywood rarely lasts forever. As the film industry changed in the late 1960s and 1970s, the major movie roles became less frequent. Although George later found a new generation of fans through television, especially the A-Team, his years as a major movie idol slowly faded into the past. Even so, he never stopped acting and remained dedicated to his craft throughout his career. George Peppard passed away in 1994 at the age of 65 after battling lung cancer. Today, his grave is calm and rarely visited, a quiet contrast to the decades when his name appeared on theatre marquees around the world. While many still remember his famous performances, the place where he now rests has become one of Hollywood history's quieter destinations. Leaving Michigan behind, our journey continues to another beautiful actress whose unforgettable smile once captivated audiences, but whose name has gradually slipped from the memories of modern moviegoers. Number 7. Inga Stevens. At Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, California, Inga Stevens rests in a quiet place surrounded by towering trees and carefully maintained gardens. Few visitors realize that one of the most admired actresses of the 1960s is buried here, far from the spotlight she once knew so well. Born in Sweden before building a successful career in Hollywood, Inga Stevens quickly became known for her natural beauty, elegance, and emotional performances. She starred in films such as deWilde, The Flesh and the Devil and Hang 'em High, while also becoming a familiar face on American television. During the 1960s, many believed she was destined to become one of Hollywood's biggest leading ladies. But behind her graceful image, she carried struggles that few people ever saw. Although her career continued to grow, Inga privately battled emotional difficulties that remained hidden from the public. Friends often described her as kind and professional, yet she lived with a loneliness that contrasted sharply with the glamorous life audiences imagined. In 1970, Inga Stevens died at the age of 35 after an overdose of barbiturates. Her sudden death shocked Hollywood and cut short a career that still held tremendous promise. Today, her grave is peaceful and rarely visited, a quiet reminder of how quickly fame can fade. While classic film lovers still remember her remarkable performances, the silence surrounding her final resting place stands in striking contrast to the admiration she once received. Leaving Inga Stevens behind, our journey continues to another young actress whose breakthrough role made her famous around the world, but whose Hollywood career never unfolded the way many expected. Number 8. Sue Lyon. At Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, California, Sue Lyon rests in a quiet cemetery where many Hollywood stars have found their final resting place. Yet unlike some of the industry's biggest legends, her grave is often passed by with little attention, despite the remarkable career that began when she was still a teenager. Sue Lyon became an international sensation after starring in Lolita in 1962. Her performance brought her worldwide recognition and earned her a Golden Globe for Most Promising Newcomer. Almost overnight, she became one of Hollywood's most talked about young actresses, with many believing she had a long and successful future ahead. But early success also brought enormous pressure. After the fame of Lolita, Sue struggled to escape the role that had defined her career. Although she continued appearing in films throughout the 1960s and beyond, none matched the impact of her breakthrough performance. As Hollywood evolved, Major opportunities became increasingly rare, and her once promising career gradually faded from the spotlight. Lyon passed away in 2019 at the age of 73 after a period of declining health. Today, her grave is quiet, a striking contrast to the worldwide attention she received as a young actress. While devoted classic film fans still remember the performance that made her famous, the place where she now rests reflects how quickly even extraordinary fame can disappear with time. Leaving Lyon behind, our journey continues to another beautiful actress whose elegance once lit up the silver screen, yet whose name has slowly faded from Hollywood's brightest memories. Number 9. Yvette Mimieux. At Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, California, Yvette Mimieux rests in one of Hollywood's most famous cemeteries. Although many visitors come to honor legendary stars, few stop at the grave of the actress whose beauty and quiet screen presence once made her one of the brightest rising stars of the 1960s. Yvette Mimieux first captured audiences in the Time Machine before building a successful career with films such as Light in the Piazza and Where the Boys Are. With her graceful charm and natural elegance, she quickly became one of Hollywood's most recognizable young actresses. Throughout the 1960s, she appeared alongside many of the era's biggest stars and seemed destined for an even greater career. But Hollywood changed, and so did her path. Rather than chasing fame at any cost, Yvette became increasingly selective about the roles she accepted. As the years passed, she gradually stepped away from the spotlight, choosing a quieter life while many of her contemporaries continued searching for leading roles. Her absence from the screen slowly caused her name to fade from public memory. Yvette Mimieux passed away in 2022 at the age of 80 after a long life that stretched well beyond Hollywood's golden years. Today, her grave remains peaceful, a quiet contrast to the admiration she once received from moviegoers around the world. Though classic film fans still remember her timeless performances, her final resting place reflects how even some of Hollywood's most admired stars can gradually slip from the spotlight. Leaving Yvette Mimieux behind, our journey continues to another actress whose unforgettable style made her a symbol of an entire generation, yet whose story ended in heartbreaking circumstances. Number 10. Stella Stevens. At Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, California, Stella Stevens rests among many of Hollywood's most recognizable names, yet despite the fame she once enjoyed, her grave is far quieter today than the career that made her a beloved star of the 1960s. Stella Stevens rose to prominence with her striking beauty, natural charisma, and effortless screen presence. She appeared in films such as Girls, alongside Elvis Presley and The Nutty Professor with Jerry Lewis, becoming one of the era's most admired actresses. Throughout the 1960s, she was a familiar face on movie posters, magazine covers, and television screens, earning a loyal following around the world. But lasting success in Hollywood is never guaranteed. As the industry evolved, leading film roles became less frequent, and Stella gradually shifted her focus toward television, where she continued working for decades. Although she remained active in entertainment, the enormous popularity she once enjoyed slowly faded as a new generation of stars took center stage. Stella Stevens passed away in 2023 at the age of 84 after a long battle with Alzheimer's disease. Today, her grave is peaceful, standing in quiet contrast to the years when audiences eagerly lined up to watch her newest films. While classic movie fans still remember her charm and unforgettable performances, her final resting place serves as another reminder that even Hollywood's brightest stars can gradually fade from public memory. Leaving Stella Stevens behind, our journey now continues to another actress whose elegant beauty once captivated audiences across America, but whose name is now remembered by far fewer people than it deserves. Number 11. Carol Lynley. At Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, California, Carol Lynley rests in a quiet corner, far removed from the cameras that once followed her career. While many visitors come to honor Hollywood's biggest legends, few pause to remember the actress whose elegance and charm made her one of the familiar faces of 1960s cinema. Carol Lynley first gained attention as a successful model before making a smooth transition to the big screen. Films such as Blue Denim, Return to Peyton Place, and later The Poseidon Adventure introduced her to audiences around the world. With her graceful beauty and natural screen presence, she became one of Hollywood's promising young actresses during the 1960s. But success proved difficult to sustain. As the film industry evolved, leading roles became less frequent, and Carol gradually shifted toward television and independent productions. Although she continued acting for many years, the widespread fame she once enjoyed slowly faded as a new generation of stars captured Hollywood's attention. Carol Lynley passed away in 2019 at the age of 77 after suffering a heart attack. Today, her grave remains peaceful, a quiet contrast to the years when her face regularly appeared on movie posters and magazine covers. Though devoted classic film fans still appreciate her performances, her final resting place reminds us how even well-known stars can gradually disappear from public memory. Leaving Carol Lynley behind, our journey continues to another actor whose rugged charm made him one of the most recognizable faces of the 1960s, before time quietly carried his name into history. Number 12. George Maharis. At Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Cathedral City, California, George Maharis rests in a peaceful setting far from the excitement that once surrounded his career. Although he was one of television and Hollywood's most recognizable young stars during the early 1960s, few visitors now stop to remember the actor who once captured the attention of millions. George Maharis rose to fame through the hit series Route 66, where his charisma and rugged good looks quickly turned him into a national heartthrob. His popularity soon opened the door to film roles, and throughout the 1960s, he appeared in movies such as Sylvia, The Satan Bug, and A Covenant with Death. For a time, he seemed destined to become one of Hollywood's next great leading men. But his remarkable rise didn't last. Health problems forced him to step away from Route 66 at the height of its success, interrupting the momentum of his career. Although he continued acting in films and television for years afterward, he never fully regained the extraordinary popularity he had once enjoyed as audiences gradually turned their attention to a new generation of stars. George Maharis passed away in 2023 at the age of 94 after a long life that stretched well beyond Hollywood's golden era. Today, his grave remains quiet, a striking contrast to the days when his face appeared on magazine covers across America. While longtime fans still remember the charm that made him a household name, his final resting place reminds us how even the biggest idols can slowly fade from public memory. Leaving George Maharis behind, our journey now crosses the Atlantic to remember another actor whose talent made him an international sensation before Hollywood quietly moved on. Number 13. Horst Buchholz. At Friedhof Heerstrasse Cemetery in Berlin, Germany, Horst Buchholz rests far from the Hollywood studios where he once built an international career. Today, only devoted classic film fans are likely to visit the grave of the actor who was once known as one of Europe's brightest young stars. Often called the German James Dean, Horst Buchholz gained worldwide recognition during the late 1950s and throughout the 1960s. His performances in films such as The Magnificent Seven, 1, 2, 3 and Tiger Bay introduced him to audiences around the world. With his youthful charm, confidence and unmistakable screen presence, he became one of the few European actors to successfully cross into Hollywood. But success on both sides of the Atlantic proved difficult to maintain. As the film industry evolved, major leading roles became less frequent, and Horst gradually focused on European productions instead of Hollywood blockbusters. Although he continued acting for decades and earned the respect of filmmakers, the international fame he once enjoyed slowly faded as newer stars took the spotlight. Horst Buchholz passed away in 2003 at the age of 69 after complications from pneumonia. Today, his grave remains quiet, a striking contrast to the years when audiences around the world admired his performances. While classic movie enthusiasts still recognize his remarkable talent, his final resting place reminds us how quickly even international stars can slip from public memory. Leaving Berlin behind, our journey returns to Hollywood to remember another actress whose beauty once lit up the silver screen before she quietly disappeared from the spotlight. Number 14. Pamela Tiffen. At Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn, New York, Pamela Tiffen rests far from the bright lights of Hollywood that once launched her career. Although she was admired for her beauty, charm, and effortless screen presence during the 1960s, her grave is now visited mostly by devoted fans of classic cinema who still remember the actress she once was. Pamela Tiffen first gained attention as a successful model before quickly breaking into Hollywood films. She appeared alongside some of the biggest stars of the era in movies such as Summer and Smoke, State Fair, 1, 2, 3, and Harper. With her youthful energy and natural charisma, she seemed destined to become one of Hollywood's next leading ladies. But her story took an unexpected turn. Rather than pursuing a lifelong Hollywood career, Pamela chose a different path. During the late 1960s, she moved to Italy, where she found steady success starring in Italian comedies and European productions. While she remained a familiar face overseas, her absence from Hollywood gradually caused American audiences to forget the actress who had once appeared poised for lasting stardom. Pamela Tiffen passed away in 2020 at the age of 78 after a brief illness. Today her grave stands quietly among the historic monuments of Greenwood Cemetery, a peaceful resting place for an actress whose career crossed continents but gradually slipped from public memory. Though classic film lovers continue to appreciate her performances, her final resting place reminds us that even remarkable talent can fade as the decades pass. Leaving Pamela Tiffen behind, our journey continues to remember a young actor whose remarkable promise was cut tragically short, leaving behind a career filled with possibilities that would never be realized. Number 15. Brandon deWilde. At Memorial Park Cemetery in Skokie, Illinois, Brandon deWilde rests far from the Hollywood sets where he spent much of his childhood. Though his career began with extraordinary promise, few visitors today stop to remember the young actor whose talent once made him one of America's brightest stars. Brandon deWilde captured audiences at just 11 years old with his unforgettable performance in Shane, earning an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. The role instantly established him as one of Hollywood's most gifted child actors. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, he continued appearing in films and television, including HUD, All Fall Down, and numerous popular TV dramas, successfully making the difficult transition from child star to adult actor. But his life was destined to end far too soon. Just as Brandon was beginning to build a mature acting career, tragedy struck. In 1972, while driving through Colorado, he was involved in a devastating traffic accident. Despite emergency treatment, he died from his injuries at only 30 years old, bringing an abrupt end to a career that many believed still held tremendous potential. Today, his grave remains peaceful, a quiet contrast to the admiration he received as one of Hollywood's most talented young performers. While fans of classic cinema continue to remember the boy from Shane, his final resting place reminds us how quickly both fame and life itself can disappear, leaving behind only memories preserved on film. Leaving Brandon deWilde behind, we arrive at the final story on our list, an actress whose promising career slowly faded from view before she too was quietly laid to rest, remembered today by only a handful of devoted fans. Number 16. Diane McBain. At Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, California, Diane McBain rests in a quiet corner of one of Hollywood's most famous cemeteries. While thousands of visitors come each year to honor legendary stars, few stop to remember the actress whose beauty and screen presence once made her one of Warner Brothers' brightest young talents. Diane McBain first gained attention through television before becoming a contract actress for Warner Brothers. During the 1960s, she appeared in productions such as Parish, Surfside 6, Batman and Spin Out alongside Elvis Presley. With her glamorous image and confident performances, she seemed destined for a long career as one of Hollywood's leading ladies. But the industry changed quickly. As new faces emerged, major film roles became increasingly difficult to find. Diane continued acting in television and independent productions, yet the widespread recognition she once enjoyed gradually faded. In later years, she earned respect for openly sharing her battle with breast cancer and for encouraging others facing similar challenges. Diane McBain passed away in 2022 at the age of 81. Today, her grave remains peaceful, a quiet reminder of a career that once held so much promise. Though her name is no longer widely recognized, classic film fans continue to remember the actress who briefly shined during one of Hollywood's most unforgettable eras. With Diane McBain, our journey comes to an end. These 16 forgotten idols remind us that fame is often temporary, but the stories they left behind continue to keep a small part of Hollywood's golden age alive. As we close this journey through the resting places of 16 forgotten cinema idols, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Fame may last for a moment, but time eventually humbles everyone. The crowds disappear, the cameras stop rolling, and even the brightest stars can quietly fade into history. Yet every time we revisit their stories, we help keep their legacy alive for another generation. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next journey into Hollywood's forgotten past. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.